You see, I was right about Venezuela. Many of you wanted to argue with me and allege all these things because you have no knowledge of history, as well as surely you have no knowledge of economics, right? Or business. You did not major in that. Some of you want to argue, probably don't even have a GED. But that being said, you heard it from your own president. The real reason that we are trying to invade Venezuela is because of oil. Right? It has nothing to do with narco, although we already killed innocent people. It doesn't matter if they were actually narcos. It's not our business. We are in international waters. We have no right. We are committing crimes. Okay? Now, that being said, I want you to understand. I'm going to give you a quick history. Now, I need you to watch this video so you can understand the statistical stacks, the facts of our empire dying, which is the real reason why we are over there next to Venezuela. But in order for you to understand, I'm going to give you a crash course real quick. Okay? Many decades ago, there was an elite group of people that have been going from empires to empires. Their job is to rob like parasites, to rob the nation's wealth through usury. It happened in Dutch and Netherlands and Amsterdam, right? And then Britain came over, became an empire. And then when Britain, it happened as well. Let me tell you what happened, okay? This group of elites moved over here, many of them through Rothschilds, through JP Morgan, through many of these families, created a system, all right, that they had a secret meeting in Jekyll's Island in Georgia in 1910. In 1913, they became the Federal Reserve. Well, you think that is a bank. It's a private entity of families that got together, okay? And we turned over the power of creating money and we turned it over to them. But this is what happened. As you know, 1913. 1917 and 1918, we got involved in World War I. Britain, obviously, war cost a lot of money, and they got over-leveraged in debt. By the time that World War II came along, okay, with the war with Germany, obviously they were bankrupt. Now, instead of going bankrupt and starving, they actually used us to lend them money. That's why we became the global world currency. Many of the countries saw us safe because we were surrounded by waters and we had a distance from World War II from all these countries. Therefore, we were safe to exchange their monetary money for our dollar. Okay, our dollar used to be backed by gold. Therefore, it was measurable. It was tangible, right? You could exchange with other countries. It's valued by gold. It was a certificate that you exchange for gold. So once we started getting too much in debt, we over-leveraged, overextended in debt. We had to break that separation between the dollar and gold. But many countries, because we were secure, they pegged their currency with our dollar, okay? We became the world's global currency. Now, that being said, when we reached the dollar between the gold, like Britain, like many other nations, it's because the country is going down, is losing value. They're overextended, over-leveraged. If you look at Britain as well was a huge empire. They had a lot of power. They had a strong navy. But eventually, if you can't pay your navy, right, no soldiers are that patriotic that's going to work for free and risk their lives, right? There has to be money. You need weapons. So the ignorance of many people is that they think that the Federal Reserve System is a government bank when it's not. It's not a government entity. It's a private entity owned by different families, some of which I mentioned, Rothschilds, JP Morgan, and all, many of them are Zionists. Period. They hide under communism, they hide under different names, but it's all the same. It's been happening for a long time. So the point is, once the currency was taken off the gold standard Bretton system in 1971, many nations said, we can't keep our dollar there. They're becoming, they're becoming a risk. So what happened was, in 1974, we became very creative. We spoke with, obviously, Saudi Arabia and told them, with OPEC, and said, okay, if anyone wants to buy oil, and oil was needed. Oil, it was a high demand. You needed to warm up your houses, industrial companies, trucking companies, right, to bring supply goods and all that. You need oil for fuel. You need oil for many stuff. So the only way you could buy oil, you have to exchange your dollar, or your currency, I should say, for the dollar. Thus the petrodollar. So unless you wanted oil, the only way to get it was by exchanging your money through the dollar. That created a higher demand for the dollar. Now, if you remember in economics, supply and demand, the more demand for the dollar, right, the higher and the price, the more the value, the more value it becomes. So we basically created like a monopoly. In order to buy buy goods, you needed to exchange your currency to dollar. Not only did we use the petrol system, we also have what is called SWIFT system. In other words, in order for you to buy goods, right, whether it's fruits, whether it's whatever goods, right, gross domestic product, then you needed also to have like a bank reserve, right? You need to open an account, see that like an HOA to be a part of that membership. You have to pay this monthly fees. Well, they had to pay these fees. They had to have the reserve millions and billions of dollars in order to exchange goods, okay, through the SWIFT system. So there was no other way to go around it. But when us Americans kept on putting negative sanctions and embargoes like we did to Cuba, like we did to Iran, like we did to Libya, and eventually we did to Russia, over 300 billion. Then all these nations that also have their reserve with America said, wait a minute, they're not only monopolizing the situation, but also they are weaponizing the dollar. And our currency, our money, is not safe with America no more. So they started devaluing the currency by what? Returning it, not buying treasury bonds. For example, China had over $1.3 trillion. Now they are 760 billion because they see what's going on. They keep returning those bonds. Okay, so it's like hot potato. Who's going to get caught with less value? So nations are scared because we can't be trusted. We will rob them through what is called taxation, invisible tax, right? Appreciation, inflation. So many countries are aware of that, so that we are no longer trusted. We are seen as the evil empire that is putting negative sanctions, robbing the other countries from their natural resources, right? And we proved it with Russia. Imagine a power country, a global power country, and we did that too. Imagine what we would do to other nations, okay? So that's one. Number two, obviously, when we took the dollar off the gold standard, then that's what we implemented with Saudi Arabia in 1974, the petrol system. But what happened was now, these countries had nowhere to go, right? They were forced to use the dollar. But that's no longer the case because these countries got prepared, like Russia, China, and as you know, it's called BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa got together, okay? And there are other nations like Iran, like Venezuela, that are also part of that. So they got together and they created the BRICS system, in which now they could trade among themselves, no longer need the dollar. So Saudi Arabia, who created with us the petrodollar, now allows, since 2024, for other countries to buy oil with their currency when they used to be only with the dollar. Why Saudi Arabia did this? Because they own interest. They saw China is growing drastically more than the United States. They're producing more. The demand for oil is more. So China is not going to be trading their currency for a dollar to buy oil when they could buy their oil with their own currency. And Saudi Arabia said, oh, wait a minute. America's going down. They're $38 trillion in debt. They know what's going. They know economics. They said, no, I'm going to have to start studying in other currency. So countries like Iran and Venezuela were a threat because obviously they have oil. Matter of fact, Venezuela is one of the most powerful and rich countries as far as in oil and petroleum. But they don't have the industry. They don't have the technology to be able to continue converting petroleum into oil, fuel, and all that. But who does? Russia and China. And they invested billions of dollars because we put negative sanctions on Russia. We say if you sell to Russia oil, we're going to penalize you and fine you, right? And we're going to close your bank account. So you can understand, right? We'll close your bank account. Oh, we can't do that. So what happened? Iran and Venezuela, who have oil, said, don't worry, okay, we'll sell you the oil because they have negative sanctions as well. Or we'll buy your oil. So Russia and China have a great demand for oil, which who supplies that? Venezuela and Iran. So they are a threat because now, since nobody wants to buy our dollar, which we charge, and not only that, basically the whole world is subsidizing our debt. Think about it. We used to print money and money with debt, money that we don't have. This is why our empire is going to collapse because honestly, you got to understand, to make you understand, make believe your income is $3,000 a month, right? Your income is $3,000 a month. And your rent is $2,500. But with your light, food, and all that, you exceed to $3,500. So now you're $500 short. So what you do? You borrow. But the creditors who are lending you money are seeing, wait a minute, he's over leveraged and overextended in debt, and he doesn't have the income to pay me. His interests are higher. That's what's going on in America. Our interests had exceeded what we supplied the military, okay? And what we owe, forget about the principal balance of 38 trillion. The interest alone exceeded what we pay to the military in a year, and that's a red flag. That's been known throughout history in economics, that we are overextended, we're going to collapse. So what we do, we gotta go, as we've done before, invade other countries and steal their wealth, their oil, their gold, their natural resources. We've done it before. This ain't new. Except now we have the internet, so we are all waking up. We know better. And that's what we're doing to Venezuela. Because if nobody's buying the dollar, and they're not, the treasury bonds, they're not buying it, right? Because they know that we are overextended in debt. They know that we put negative sanctions. Many of us don't like us because we are complicit to war crimes in Gaza, right? In Palestine. You know, they see what we are really about, okay? It's a group of family elite, global elites that make money, right, through the dollar, and they will fight. They'll hide in bunkers if they have to, but they'll fight World War III to hell, because the one who's dying is you. The American people, or America, or people and soldiers from different countries. They don't care. It's you who is dying, okay? But they don't want to lose control of that dollar. The dollar is losing power. It's dying. We are overextended in debt. And the only way we used to get away from, like I told you, because we lend money out. Other people give us loans, buying our treasury bonds. They no longer want to buy our treasury bonds. They're going down. If you want more understanding, and I articulate better, I have statistical facts on this video right here. You need to watch it. But the point is, people are not buying our dollar. So what's going to happen when you have supply and demand, a lot of supply in the dollar, it's going to create a hyperinflation. And the more other countries see that the United States no longer need it, that they could trade in other currency or in their own currency, backed by gold, thus measurable. The hell with America, the hell with the dollar, and the hell with our negative sanctions. Okay, this is called a multipolar financing, which is BRICS. So all these nations are joining BRICS. They're leaving this system that Zionists and global elites created. Okay, like the Rothschilds, they are centralized throughout the world, except for Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, which is why I know what's coming and why we are going to attack these countries. It's all a lie. So you need to understand that. Wake the hell up, because you're being lied to. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and that's the way it is. That's it. That's the issue. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and share. And again, watch this video while I'm showing you statistical fact depreciation. I'm showing you a lot of information. De-dollarization. That's called de-dollarization, by the way. Okay, so our dollar's losing value. And you need to understand also how we leverage our dollar, which is called fractional lending. We lend the whole world money that we don't have. We don't have because we don't have gold. We're broke. We're broke. So de-dollarization. We lend out money that we don't have. And then based on that assumption of debt, oh, they're going to pay us back, we go and say, and we lend out more to other nations. And that's how we robbing them. So they are subsidizing our debt. So we can't keep printing dollar. Because once nobody's buying our dollar, that's when the economy's going to crash. That's like a bank run. And everybody's going to come and collect. And we're going to be like, oh my God, I can't pay them back. What are we going to do? That's where America is today. We're not going to pass 2030. And watch out, and even maybe 2026, maybe next year. That's how close we are, guys. It's just mathematics. Thank you. Bye-bye.